Okay, again, welcome everybody to the September edition of the RKL Construction and Real Estate Brunch Club. In the last few months, we've been speaking with our clients about the digital automation journey, and that's going to continue today. My name is Mark Severance. I work as a director of construction and real estate sales for RKL, and with me is my colleague, Ben Hoffman.
Nice to see you all today. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Yeah, now the digital automation journey includes three primary steps. One, we need to identify manual processes and other bottlenecks. Two, we need to leverage technology to streamline these processes and free your people up to be as strategic as possible with their time. And three, it's important then to measure results and then move on to the next phase of automation. And one of our consistent themes is for our construction clients and prospects to see automation as a series of steps rather than something that has to be done all at once. Now, I'm a big baseball fan, and Ben, you are as well. Is there any baseball team in your area that's headed to the playoffs, Ben?
There might be. It's heading to Red October here in Philadelphia.
All right, it's going to be exciting. Now, to use a baseball analogy, as we think about automation, we're advocating that growing construction companies play small ball, right? Hit a single or double, then bunt the runner over. Think incremental automation, which is one step at a time, versus one massive initiative that could potentially be disruptive and has a lower chance of being successful. Now, with that in mind, last month we talked about construction payroll and HR and how that can be a strategic way to automate a portion of your business, as well as strategically serve your employees. This month, we're going to be discussing how AP, accounts payable automation, can be a strategic step in a construction company's digital automation journey. Now, let me just say, Ben and I are going to have a discussion. It's going to be a Q&A as we talk about this really important topic and area of automation. But if you have any questions, feel free to put that in the chat, and we'll either answer it in the middle of things or at the end. We've got about 30 minutes total, so hopefully it will be efficient, it will be concise and instructive to you today. All right, with that as background, I will ask the first question for Ben, and let's just start at the basics. What is accounts payable automation?
Well, Mark, we all know we have an incredibly smart audience out here today, but just to go backwards a little bit, AP automation is the use of technology to automate processes involved in accounts payable. Things like moving your invoice processing and the ingestion of invoicing, approval workflows, and payment transactions. Its aim is to increase efficiency, reduce errors, improve financial control within organizations. And it's a myth to think that it's better to wait for the technology to mature. Why do today what we can put off till tomorrow? The reality is that AP automation is already mature and being adopted widely across the industry. And you're missing out on a competitive advantage in cost savings. Oh, wait, for those that know me, it's not a competitive advantage, but it's an essential strategy. It's part of an end-to-end strategy of automation. Most AP automation solutions are designed to seamlessly integrate with your financial management, but that is something you really want to look closely at when choosing the right solution.
Right. Yeah, that's a good introduction and kind of lays the foundation for our discussion here. So what I heard from you is there's kind of two primary components. The first is at the AP invoice level, and then the second is then how we make AP payments to our vendors.
Absolutely. There's many components to our system, including aspects of document management. There's typically a large overlap in that category. In fact, do you know what starts with documentation and communication? Everything in construction. So project documentation is the lifeblood of our industry, and bringing it electronically gives it faster visibility, less risk of data error. There's more opportunity for eyes to review all of these documents. But let's understand that each solution offers various nuances to how they work, how they address your workflow, what their interfaces are. So many different types of features. I know we're going to talk more about these later today, so we don't want to just focus on that OCR capability, but we need to consider other features such as how documents are shared or fetched. That's a lot of considerations.
Understand. So really, as we think about accounts payable automation, it's really, that's where we're going to focus today, but it's part of our, maybe a subset of a broader category of document management. Is that fair to say, Ben?
That is, and like we said, that's part of that broader category of our journey to a complete cloud solution for our companies.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So some of the times people talk about going paperless, and we're big proponents of going paperless, but often rather than saying we're going to eliminate all paper all at once, you got to start somewhere. And for many companies, many growing construction companies, accounts payable automation is a great place to start. So, okay. Next question, Ben. This should be an easy one, so hopefully it won't make you think too hard here. If a growing construction company is a good candidate for AP automation, how would they know?
Let's see, that is hard. Let's see, do they have bills to pay? Do their employees enjoy spending time opening mail and performing data entry? Do they like paper cuts or need the paper scraps for confetti perhaps for New Year's? Look, you're all good candidates. It's a growth tool. Growth comes from efficiencies. It reduces the need for manpower and keystrokes, reduces risk, less mistakes, more compliance. Sage paperless document management tool as a subset of a larger subset of our automation journey. It's a tool to organize and store. You don't lose things. You can actually get rid of those Sharpies.
Outstanding. Okay. So yeah, that was an easy one. Again, kind of a softball there for you. Pretty much any growing construction company is a great candidate for AP automation. And when we talk about AP automation, just to be clear for all those in the audience today, we're talking about tools that allow for the automated ingestion and coding of accounts payable invoices and automated routing rules for approval. So that's on the AP invoice side, and then the AP payments is to be able to quickly and efficiently pay your vendors in the way that they want to be paid. So with that as background, let's move into some of the specific operational benefits of a high functioning AP automation solution. So Ben, let's just say there are those in the audience today who are saying, okay, I understand sort of in theory about why automating accounts payable could be a good idea, and maybe are having some specific pain points today, but specifically, what would be some of the top operational benefits of implementing AP automation?
You know, at the top of my list comes employee satisfaction. Anything we can do to reduce the mundane keystrokes, that routine kind of functionality that doesn't add to their growth, their learning, or to contribute to thinking about our processes is a great place to start. But there's cost reductions that come from it. The American Productivity and Quality Center has said that you're 20 times more expensive when you manually process an invoice. There's cost savings. In fact, the Aberdeen Group says that it costs as much as $30 to process an invoice, and automation can drop that cost to as low as $3.50. There's efficiency gains. The Institute for Financial Management said that companies pay and process invoices 81% faster when using automation. In the construction industry, where AP can be particularly complex due to the volume and variability of our invoices, this time can translate to significant savings. From an invoicing processing standpoint, according to Ardent Partners, it takes 8.3 days to process a typical manual invoice, but only 2.9 when you leverage automation. Faster processing times can be crucial in the construction industry, where timely payments can impact project schedules and supplier relationships. Also, think about how happy your employees will be with a digital assistant doing the hard part of data entry, reducing errors, and checking for compliance.
Yeah, Ben, that's really interesting, and I appreciate the way that you framed it. You kind of started and ended with benefits to employees in terms of employee satisfaction and freeing them up to be more strategic and to do the things perhaps that they were really trained to do, as opposed to doing some of these manual processes, pushing paper, etc. So in the middle, you had talked about a lot of studies that have been done. So this is kind of one of those, don't take our word for it, people who have studied the manual AP process. And again, just the manual AP process of receiving paper, of manually entering those documents into an accounts payable module, and then either pushing actual physical pieces of paper or perhaps attaching it to an email, and then kind of lots of email back and forth. That's the manual process. And in contrast to the automated process where there's electronic capabilities to ingest and code the software, so that people are much more, they're reviewing as opposed to doing manual data entry. So again, I appreciate both components there where you shared there's a human element to it, as well as a lot of benefits from an efficiency and cost savings standpoint. Now, the other thing that I just wanted to kind of drill down on a little bit, in addition to the elevating the human beings in accounting as well as reducing cost, there's also risk that managing physical pieces of paper introduces into our processes. And so one of the other benefits of automating our AP invoice and payment process reduces risk. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. We're all very interested in risk mitigation in the construction industry, and perhaps an underthought of area is within your processing and your accounting processes in AP. It reduces the human error risk, reduces the risk of a duplicate payment, lost invoices. There's improved accuracy, there's error reduction, there's contract compliance, there's lien waiver managing. Let's take, for example, managing lien waivers, how critical they are to our systems. AP automation systems can track and associate lien waivers with their respective payments and ensure those waivers are collected before the payments are made. We can streamline approvals. We can increase visibility to the paperwork, and it's a disaster recovery method where some solutions act as a vault and they take responsibility for the data security and protection of our documents.
That's really helpful. And again, they're probably just scratching the surface in terms of all the different ways that companies can incur unnecessary risk when you're pushing paper and doing things manually. The other thing too, I would just add to that, even from an AP payment perspective, those that are still printing a lot of manual checks sometimes have an increased risk of fraud when checks perhaps might be misplaced or misused in some way. So both at the invoice level as well as the AP payment level can often really reduce their risk to much more acceptable levels through automation.
I would 100% agree. The industry is moving towards electronic payments. Our subcontractors appreciate that. And to the same message we've made before, anything we can do to reduce the handling of paper and the processing of it gains efficiencies for our organizations.
Yeah, fantastic. Now we talked about invoices, we talked about payments, you mentioned lien waivers in your last answer, but I'm just curious, could some of these capabilities for invoice routing and approval be applied and automate things like employee credit card expenses and approvals?
Absolutely, Mark. So we'll drill down into that, but an important level thought is in your journey to automation is to think about what your workflow is within your organization. For some organization, that employee expense process passes through the payroll system, but for others, they're doing procurement or they're doing other items that we choose to pass through our accounts payable process. Either way, automating the expense reporting process creates efficiency and time savings. It makes it easier for our folks to report those expenses. It creates a greater accuracy again. It simplifies things. The math is always right. It improves the compliance again. We make faster reimbursements. Again, real-time visibility. Those costs land right where they belong on the project, on time. You get analytics into it. And then we mentioned before the environmental impact, less paper, less paper, less paper, and it's an enhanced employee experience. Anything we can do to improve the conditions and satisfaction of our team members is always an important consideration.
Excellent. Yeah, just in general, one of the things that we advise our clients on is to say, when you see processes that are paper intensive and or email or spreadsheet intensive, that's an automation opportunity. Okay, what are some of the potential costs of not automating accounts payable?
We've touched on this a little bit, but miscoded invoices, paying wrong amounts, overpaying, underpaying, duplicate payments, lost invoices, lags in your WIP reporting, delayed payments mean underbillings. Who wants that? That creates cash flow challenges, vendor and subcontractor dissatisfaction. And again, as I continue to report to you, the environmental impact, as well as the impact of storing that paper within your own organization.
Yeah, excellent. Yep. So lots of benefits, lots of reasons to automate, as well as lots of risk to maintain the status quo. I think that's probably both those realities should be held in tandem there. Next question, Ben. We talk about a journey. We kind of started our discussion with the digital automation journey. And so I'm just curious, in your perspective and your many years of experience, how does implementing accounts payable automation, or how can it become a bridge to greater automation in the future? And perhaps said another way, how should people listening in see AP automation as part of a greater automation journey?
So, we often discuss it as being a critical step in that broader transformation journey, and there's several reasons why. AP automation is as good a place as any to start where the processes move digital. That shift enables faster processing, better tracking of invoices and payments, enhanced data management, and setting a precedent for digital efficiency across the organization. It helps the company start the process of centralizing their financial data, make it easier to access and analyze. Centralized data is the cornerstone of digital transformation, as it supports better decision-making and can be leveraged by other digital tools and analytic platforms. It starts a cultural change, moving away from paper, and access anywhere becomes the standard. Employees move from manual, repetitive tasks to more strategic and analytical roles, which align with the aims of digital transformation, to harness technology to elevate the human component of work. We have enhanced compliance and security. Digital transformation involves upgrading to more secure and compliant technologies. AP automation includes features of improved data security, compliance with financial regulations, and better governance. It's essential in today's digital landscape. Analytics and business intelligence. With AP automation, companies can leverage the data they collect for analytics and business intelligence. The capability provides insights into spending patterns and supplier performance. It lends towards our scalability. Automation solutions are built to scale with the growth of the company. As the business expands, you can process more paperwork without raising your headcount. And then we've mentioned over and over again today, sustainability. Less paper-based processes contribute to sustainability efforts. So our digital transformation often includes a sustainability component, and companies look to reduce their environmental impact.
Yeah, easy for you to say sustainability, right?
I am, yes, much easier.
Yeah, I think that's really strategic. I appreciate that very thorough answer. I think sometimes in a digital automation journey, there are some steps that are bigger, that are more consequential, that take more time. In other cases, something like AP automation perhaps is a little bit of a smaller step, which can introduce that into the culture and say to the entire organization, we're going to do things better. We're going to make strategic investments so that the employee experience as well as the customer or vendor experience with our company is improved. Now that's outstanding. Now we've just got a few more minutes left here, Ben, and so I just got a couple of final questions. One is, will any AP automation solution work, or are there specific capabilities that as people consider their options, that they should think about when they do their due diligence?
I had a need for a hammer the other day, and I Googled it. Over 40 different types of hammers came up right away. You have peen hammers, cross beam hammers, mallets, rubber mallets, claw hammers. So just starting there, no, one size does not fit all. You're going to spend a little bit of time evaluating what your needs are. Is there a more efficient way to pound a nail? Well, our industry is researching it if there is. So you too should consider the process of looking at your AP automation, document management, your whole journey in a holistic approach as to what your goals are, your needs are, and what the future looks like. So yes, it matters. We want to look at things like, does the solution offer industry-specific capabilities? How does it connect? What's the best method to connect programs in the cloud? APIs. I know we had a question from the audience asking a little bit about what an API was. Well, an API is an application programming interface. It's sort of the way in which cloud programs have standardized the connections. Think of it like your standard 110 outlet. When you plug a UL listed appliance into that 110 outlet, you expect it to operate. No problems, everything's going to go well. Well, in the API world, that's the same expectation. When you partner up two products with proper API, you should expect that 100% compliance. So I know I drilled down a little bit of a rabbit hole there, but I know one of our participants had asked. Other than that, some other considerations are the user experience, how easy it is to use. Does it have mobile apps? What are my needs to collect data from the field? What levels of approval, as well as the amount of workflow automation you can control or create? What features and user interface looks like? For example, what's the tolerable variance on a truckload? Or does it document management? Does it store the documents as a vault or just route the documents to another system? So we have different considerations, including its level of security.
Lots to consider. That makes great sense. Again, there's a number of different components, you're right, that are required for somebody to say, okay, this makes great sense. So I've got one final question, but just wanted to kind of recap things as we think about why AP automation in a broad category. There's three reasons to do so. One is be able to streamline processes that you can get more done in a shorter amount of time. Two is you can reduce risk, the various areas that paper and manual processes introduce risk of error or non-compliance or a poor experience internally and externally. And three, then increasing the employee experience, improving that to where their role is elevated in the organization so that they can be more strategic and do their best work. You are using technology in a strategic way to automate those manual processes. Plus, Ben, as you had mentioned, that there's the opportunity to be able to grow without having to prematurely add headcount or increase your administrative team only for the purpose of maintaining these manual processes. So there's a lot of specific benefits there. And then those are the three broad categories, many specific ones underneath. But I also understand here, as we've just got a few minutes left, that there may be folks on the call, some of whom are RKL clients, perhaps some of whom are not yet. Sometimes all of this sounds great, they're motivated, they're interested, but it's still a little bit overwhelming. So Ben, this is an easy one. And I just want to have you perhaps speak to those clients who are saying, we'd like to know more, we just don't know where to start. How can RKL help?
Well, it's funny. So our RKL really, and Mark, I'm going to toss this back to you because I know a guy here in the audience that's really skilled at helping our organizations surface their needs and equipping them to make the best possible decision on their automation journey. Why don't you share with them, Mark, how we can assist?
Okay, sure. Happy to do so, Ben. And to those who are listening either live or in a recorded session, we love having these conversations with growing construction companies who are saying we want to be better. We recognize that we have a need to be more strategic, and that will be part of our competitive advantage going forward, is that we will have leveraged technology in a strategic fashion. So whether it's broad digital automation initiatives or very focused, like we've been talking about today on AP automation, it typically starts with a conversation. And typically when you go to the doctor's saying, what's wrong? Where are the challenges? Where does the pain exist? We would start with those questions, as well as then be able to better understand what your ideal future looks like. A big part of accounts payable is, what are your workflows? What are the applications that need to interface with the invoices? Where does the information need to go? And so we start by asking, where's the pain? What is some of the context there with your current technology solutions, as well as what do you want to accomplish with AP automation, the invoice level, at the payment level, and how does that fit into your broader automation strategy? We love to be able to align with your priorities and your timing. And at any point, just know that it's more a consultative exercise than primarily a sales exercise. If there's a product, if there's a tool that will provide significant return on investment and free you up to experience the benefits that we've talked about, we would absolutely love to be able to introduce you to one of our strategic vendors and go from there. So I would say, as far as the next step, if you're interested, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email to me or to Ben or to one of your contacts here at RKL, and we can set up a discovery call, probably about 30 minutes, and start the discussion from there. Ben, anything you'd add?
No, Mark, I think you did a great job summarizing today's discussion, and I would have to agree. There's nothing we enjoy more than hearing your specific needs and desires and trying to help you align them with the various solutions out there. So thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time with us.
Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.